Shut up and sit down.
Well, would you look at that? You came back for another podcast. Well, guess what? We made one. Just for you. That's right. You. Enjoy the show. Hey, welcome back to the Dial Podcast. I'm here today with Mr. Matt LeGrand.
Hey, what is happening?
And Mr. Lance Hepler.
Good afternoon.
Unfortunately, Mr. Evan Price is not able to join us today because he's helping the greater good by treating patients. Got called into work on his day off. Poor guy.
What is that?
Yeah.
What is work?
Priorities.
I don't understand.
Where are your priorities?
So we are back for episode number 5.
Yes.
How is it already number 5?
I don't know.
Yeah. Well, Lance, thank you for coming back again. Really appreciate you coming back here for part 2.
I'm glad I didn't burn my bridge last week.
Oh, you did. We were just desperate, so, we'll take anybody.
We're hoping to keep Lance in the rotation if he'll keep coming back for more. He's always a welcome friend to have around the show and, ride bikes with and hang out with in general. So
I love doing it. I do.
Good stuff. All right, so let's go ahead and kick things on and get into our weekend backpedal and kind of run through what we all went through this past week. And why don't we start with you, Lance? Go ahead.
Well, since I'm not racing just yet, I actually spent the weekend adventuring this week. I had a couple days off, and so I just randomly drove to Seattle and went to the Seattle Mariners game, which they lost terribly. Okay. But of course, I hauled a couple bikes with me and stuff, and I still had a couple days to kill. So I drove out to the Olympic Peninsula and did a couple rides in Port Angeles, Washington, along the waterfront, and I rode around Bainbridge Island, which is right across the Sound from Seattle, and it was way too hilly, and it was a ton of fun. And then I did a couple hikes. So some beautiful hikes on the coast and in the rainforest. And so I was just adventuring.
Did you take a lot of photos?
I'm a bit of that was more the reason why I went was to take photos because awesome. I love photography and whatnot. And so that's what I did.
I'm trying to be a photographer, so we need to go out and we could bike for 5 minutes and then just take photos and call it a bike ride. And we biked. I think we biked over 15 minutes today. And then
way to go!
We got tons of photos.
So and then I had to rush back because it was my youngest daughter's last prom, and I had to be there for taking the photos. Plus, the 20 kids in her group all met at my house before they left. So,
that's cool.
So it's fun. It's
last prom for
my family. So
any tips or words of advice to a dad of some younger daughters now that you've had 2 that have gone through this process?
I have a son and 2 daughters. Yeah. Yes, and they've all gone through the process. Set your guidelines and rules early. You can't give them rules and guidelines the day of. They have to know it when they're 13.
And carry a big stick, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, they plan. I mean, prom's different than when it was back in our day, right? So it's like the asking out process is huge, right? They have signs and just weird stuff, and now it's just it's gotten out of control. Just limos and dinners and all this stuff. The dance doesn't even matter. It's just all this huge process that's the problem. Or not the problem. It's the part of the process. It's just different. It's not a bad thing. It's just different than what, for me, it was just sure, yeah, we'll go to this dance. That'll work.
I've tried to create a spot in my home where kids would want to hang out.
Yeah.
And so my home ends up being the place where the kids hang out, which is fantastic. So after prom, there were still 10 kids at my house watching a movie, and I knew they were in my basement watching the movie and not out somewhere where I didn't know they were, or I thought they were drinking or something like that.
Hanging out under bridges somewhere.
Yeah. So,
good job, Dad.
Thanks.
Yeah.
I'll have to hit you up in a few years. My oldest just turned 12, so I'm not too far off. It's starting to become all too real. The future of Dad Part 2.
Yeah.
Kicking into that real dad mode. So. Good stuff. All right, Matt, how was your weekend, my friend?
Good. Yeah,
you had a race this weekend.
I raced. Yeah. Or I mean, I talked to the race director right before the race, and she was like, "Oh, you're gonna race?" And I was like, "I'm going to participate."
You did more than that.
Yeah,
I
I
think.
tried. I mean, it was. I knew going into it that it wasn't going to be a great performance, but I also thought to myself like, oh, I'm going to go race. I'm going to have fun, but I'm going to go hard, right? Like I'm not going to.
Right.
I'm going to go hard and give it my best effort. I just know that my best effort at this point isn't what it was last year, right? So that's okay. I on Saturday just actually rode with you on Friday,
Yes.
which was too hard.
Sorry.
That's your fault. I blame you actually for my race performance. And then Saturday I just took it easy. We had tons of family stuff going on, like soccer games. You know, I have 3 kids, 3 boys, all boys. You know, and there's like so soccer all weekend, and it was great. Weather was fantastic here this weekend, which was great, and. Then on Sunday raced and the weather was excellent, and that's what you look for in those races. You don't want to be out there just like, in triathlon where you're out of the water, you're wet and you hop on a bike and you're going downhill and you're freezing and you're just teeth are chattering. Like you just don't want to race that way. Like it's just not that much fun. But this weekend the weather was actually really nice. And I kept thinking like, okay, don't need gloves. Like, okay, do I need arm warmers? And it turns out I wore them, but I probably didn't even need them. And the race itself went fine. My plan was just kind of like go out slow and work my way into it. And
It was a duathlon, correct?
yeah, so it was 5K. I thought it was going to be 5K, 40K, 5K, and it was 5K, 15 miles, 5K. So this is a weird distance, but it's the Spring Classic, and it's the 34th time they've done it. So you've probably done it.
I've raced it a couple times.
I figured you probably, you probably did. And my first 5K was slow or whatever, but it was really nice because I kind of like worked my way into it, and I like cruised by some friends, and I just kind of was like, hey, how's it going? Like just kind of ease into it. And then I was probably maybe in like 20th place or so, maybe top 20. And then, I was running decently, like, I don't know, maybe like right around 20 minutes or so for the first 5K. Then got on the bike.
No, you ran like 18:20 or something.
Yeah, I don't know.
It was like 6:05 pace. You're
looked
being
at the-
humble.
I looked at the first. I looked at the first mile split, and it was like 6:12, and I was like, "That's good." Like I'm like, "Where's this come from?" I haven't actually been training or running. So then I got on the bike. Did okay. You pass a couple people that aren't bikers, and then I got passed by a couple people that that some of my good friends that I really love racing with, and they flew past me, and I'm just like kind of actually proud of them. They actually, they're training really hard right now. They have coaches. They're putting in the workouts, the trainer workouts, the stuff that makes you strong, in my opinion. And they were doing great. So that was cool to see them go past. And then got back on the second run, which I did run 18 minutes on or so. And that was the one where it was like, I see my friends that passed me on the bike. They're here. And I was like, I don't know if it's going to come down to it. And one of the guys that's just like a super biker who's on our team, Scott Macbeth, he, I didn't think I was going to catch him, but it came down to like 400 meters to the finish. And it was just so close. And I ended up snagging him by like just a little bit. And I was worried. I was like, well, if he if he has an extra gear, like I'm flat out. But I think that, this is my question for you guys. Like, I think this happens to some of us. Like, if you've been through the process where you've been in good shape in the past and and maybe you're not necessarily on point in this particular season, you can somehow just like, I don't know if it's like leaning on your historical past or whatever it is, but you can kind of somehow like gut out those whatever extra performances that you shouldn't necessarily be able to do. And I think that that's what that second run was, right? Where it was just like, I haven't been training, haven't been doing any speed work. Somehow I'm hitting, I think I hit my last mile in like 550 or whatever, 550 something. And I was like, that's out of nowhere. But then I think if you haven't been training, you pay the price like the next day, right? So when you guys see me stand up from the round table, here at the podcast table, you'll see me like limp to the bathroom or whatever it is, and piss blood. I don't know.
I don't know if I want to watch you do that, but yeah.
No, you guys probably turn your head the other way.
Endurance sports are about pain management, right?
Yeah.
It's how well can you manage your own pain.
Yeah.
If you can you push through that pain or not? And you've had a lot of history with a lot of training in your legs. So for you to be able to lay out a 550 last mile, that's not terribly surprising.
And let's be honest, you're not 100% what you were maybe just 6 months ago, and that's because you're taking some time off, like well-deserved time off. but you're still training. You're still
Yeah.
consistent with everything.
That's
So, I
true.
mean, if you're within less than 10%, there's a lot that you can draw on physically. And then you've got the mental fortitude to push through and to kind of summon that bit of extra push that you need to finish hard.
And if you think about it, when you're at the buffet table and you're really working hard, your heart rate goes up.
That's right.
Or if you see a certain dessert, oh, that's exciting. You know, that's good. That's almost like a workout right there. So
Yeah, good stuff.
Jake, what about you? How was
Yeah.
your weekend? Let's hear it.
Yeah, Saturday I rode for about 14 miles. Yeah, it was pretty easy.
Chill.
Some leg openers. Went and saw a couple soccer games. Watched my girls play. They each scored some goals, which was
Wow.
nice. My oldest daughter, who like I said just turned 12, she scored a birthday goal. She basically started off the scoring. They ended up winning 8-0. It was kind of a fun game to watch. They had a team that they were playing that had no subs. So, come second half,
It all catches up.
they poured it on. So,
Yeah.
and then watch my youngest, and she's so fun to watch. She's got this energy for days, and she just runs circles around the other kids, and it really puts a smile on my face. And she's a tough little cookie. Did some leg openers and went out and did a little road race yesterday. Actually, a circuit race. It was the Barton Park Circuit Race. Down in, was it like Boring, Oregon? Is that where that's at?
Yeah,
Is there?
boring Oregon City
Yeah.
area. Yeah,
I still get a chuckle out of seeing
Yeah,
Boring, Oregon.
yeah.
Right next to Happy Valley.
I'm gonna move to boring someday.
So went down there, and the team, gosh, we were so deep in our field. It was funny seeing some of the pictures posted. There was probably 60 people lined up in the chute for that particular race, and it was just like every other person was wearing an orange kit, an orange dialed kit. So we were pretty well represented. I want to say we had about 12 guys in that race, so we were all over. But they did have a mixed category. We had the Masters 40s, Masters 50s, we had Masters 60s, and the Clydesdales all racing.
All in the same.
All in the same field. So made for some fun in the beginning. There's a lot of folks on a skinny little country road, but we did pretty well. We kind of had a little bit of a plan of attack. We actually had a meeting. It was the night before. We all jumped on Zoom and did like this little video conference call. Everybody was on there. Kind of was like the Brady Bunch of ballad cycling. You've got all these people up on your screen. And we were talking about different race strategies, things that we wanted to employ. Because we had so many people. I mean, why not?
Yeah.
Make racing fun. Play chess. Use the weapons that you have. And gosh, we've got a lot of them. And we got out. We had our plan. We got out there. We got lined up. Little neutral lead out. I think you were my neutral lead out the first time I did that.
That is correct.
You were our lead car.
I was lead car last year or
2 years ago.
I was
Yeah.
lead car for that. Yeah, that was fun.
So anyway, they lead us out, and car pulls off, and game on, start the race. So we had a few little shenanigans at the beginning. We just started attacking like crazy. I mean, it went from like happy little okay, we're just gonna ease into this race. Lead car pulls off, and it's like you hear fireworks, like bang, 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 guys taking off, all dial guys, and it's like answer. And our goal was basically we were just gonna be protagonists all day long. And at some point in time, something was going to stick, and we were going to support those people that got in the break and call it a day, call it a race.
Right.
And then, try and if there was an opportunity for more of us to bridge up, then we were going to do that. And then it was just going to be a matter of supporting and leading out anybody from any different category, because we wanted to take as many of each of those categories that we're racing as possible. So
How's the course?
the course is it's actually pretty fun. It's tough. It's a tough little course. It's a 6 mile circuit. So you,
So it's not too tight then. 6
no,
miles. Okay.
not at all. I mean, it's a beautiful course too.
Right.
But you get a 6 mile loop, and last year they did 8 laps. This year, for some reason, they chiseled it down to 6, which there's a climb in there called Barton Wall, and it's a nasty little bugger of a climb. It's about a third of a mile.
Yeah, and what's the percentage on it? Because it is steep.
You know what? I'd have to go back and look, but yeah, we'll just call it steep with an
Yeah.
extra couple E's in there.
Yeah.
So,
Right.
so you hit that thing, and the whole shoot match, everybody just kind of comes to a grinding halt, and they're out of the saddle, climbing gear, just trying to wiggle their way up the hill. By the time we got there was a couple of us towards the front, and our goal was to attack about halfway up the hill, and kind of pull it over the top and stretch the field and see if we can get some stuff to stick. Michael Myers and I were going to try and work together on the third time up and attack both of us just as big a watts as we can push coming over the top of that thing as possible, and see if we can make that stick work together and just basically, go off the front and see how long we can hold it down.
Because you're both in different categories. If you two got away, that would have been fantastic.
Would have been a win for the 50s and would have been a win for the 40s. So anyway, first time up that thing, I'm like, I feel pretty good, and I can recover by round 3 of coming up this hill to do this again with Michael. Let's see if we can stretch it out a little bit. Got out of the saddle, and I think I was about 900 watts, 1,000 watts for the last third of it, going up the top.
Yeah.
Crested the top, and I could have swore Chris Hannell was behind me. I just kind of felt his presence, and I'm not sure if he was there or not, because you don't want to look when you're putting down big watts. And I came up, and then as soon as I got over the top, crested it, kind of got down in that tuck position and just kept pedaling hard. And that's where the finish line is at. He's like, you come up over the top, and it's about 200 meters to the finish line. And right when I got to the finish line, I took a peek over my shoulder. I'm like, oh, nobody came with me. Oh, wait, I've got about a 10-second lead on everybody coming over the top of that thing. I'm like, oh, well, I'll keep my nose down, and I'll let my teammates sit on some wheels that are going to come chase me down and bring me back in and call it a day, because I don't get let go ever. So.
Right. Your moves are covered usually because they know you.
Yeah. So, and then, basically kept pedaling, make a couple turns, and you get on another long stretch. And I look back, I'm like, that's not 10 seconds anymore. That's like 15 or 20 seconds. So I'm like, what the heck? I'm like, well, I'll just keep going, because they're going to catch me on this long downhill. And there's wind in your face on a long downhill. You've got a peloton of people coming up behind you, and there's no way that they're not going to catch you. So I pedal, and I crest up over the hill, start the downhill, get my tuck position, and tucked going 42, 43 miles an hour, and then it flattens out, and then you get that wind in your face, and you feel like a parachute, but you still try and stay small. And I look back, I'm like, they didn't cover that space. I'm still 15, 20 seconds out there. I'm like, well, they'll catch me on the, there's a little bit more, you make a right-hand turn onto this nice smooth road. There's no wind. It's a thing of beauty. I hit that corner flying, and I'm like, well, I'll probably make a few seconds up here. And the next corner, which is 200 meters down, probably make a few seconds up there too, because they're in a group and they're going to slow down. They're not going to naturally be able to take it as fast. Make those 2 turns. I take a look back. I'm like, they still haven't caught up to me. And I put another 5 seconds into it. I'm like, well, I'm just going to keep going, because there's no way that I can hold this, because from the time that I jumped them, it was 36 miles that I would have to go by myself to do this. In my head, I'm like, it's not going to happen. But
I can't stay away that long. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm channeling my inner Chris Hannell, because he and I always talk about that. He loves his breaks, and he's always like, you don't give up until they bring you back in. You just don't do it. You put your head down and you grind until they bring you back in, because you never know when they're gonna give up on you. I don't know what happened, but I kept putting more and more time into them. Made another trip up the climb, and the first time I went up it, they're all right there with me, and I come up over the top, and there's just a little bit of a gap, and I can see some people behind me. The second time, I'm about 2/3 of the way up before the field even gets to the start of the wall. And so I boogied up it again, got down again, got my tuck position, went by the start line, and then it went to 40 seconds. I'm like, oh God, they're either leaving me out here to cook, so I can just be totally burnt and wasted from this being out front and trying to do this crazy solo stuff, or I'm just gonna have to see what I can do, and just kind of summons that inner Watts power plant, and just swallow the fact that I'm suffering, and just tune it out and just go. Well, come around for the third lap, and on the third lap, I'm coming up to the climb, and right before you hit the climb, there's a nice long little stretch of road where you can kind of see where everybody's at, and I'm like, I put even more time into them, and you know what? I don't see the field behind me now. I see the official car, and the official car doesn't come around to the break until there's at least about a 45-second gap. So I know I'm coming into this climb. I'm on lap 3. The official car is coming up behind me. I'm going to fly up this thing one more time and see if I can do this now. And I got out of the saddle. I boogied right up that thing. Official car came up to me, went past the finish line again, and got to that long straightaway before the downhill. He came up to me, and he's like, you've got 1 minute and 30 on him. Ooh. I'm like, yes. Whoa. I'm like, I don't know how this is going to happen, but I'm going to give it that.
Put your head down.
When he came up and gave me that first time, I'm like, all right, I got to make this stick. I've got to do what I can do, because if they pull me back in, I'm not going to be worth a can of beans, because I'm going to be pretty spent, and they're going to just kill me at the finish. So I did everything. I had all of the same spots on the course that I would look at, and I would take a peek back over my shoulder just to kind of get an estimate of how far back they were. And I was telling myself, you've got to keep going until they bring you back in. You keep your head down, you grind it out, and get out of sight. Because if you can get out of sight, if they can't see you, they will forget about you or give up on you. And so I got out of sight. Yeah. And the next time the car came around, he came up to me. He's like, 2 minutes, 15 seconds. Oh, I was like, oh my gosh, I got to keep going. Came up the hill for the fourth time, and just, didn't go all out, but still kind of went hard. I'm starting to feel it a little bit at this point in time. And I'm just maintaining my watts, managing my watts, looking at my heart rate, which I don't think it ever fell under 170. Yeah. I think my average heart rate it was like 171, or maybe it was 170. I don't know, but it was pretty close to that. It just kept going hard. We came around on the fifth lap. He came up around me, and he's like, it slipped a little bit. You're like back to 145. And that was our teammates trying to bridge up because they thought they could still kind of break away from the field and bridge up and help and all that other stuff. And anyhow, come around, let's see here. We're coming up on the sixth lap, and I hit the climb and feeling pretty good. And the field was way back there. And but they were getting closer though, because I remember just getting ready to go up the climb. And the time before I didn't see them. This time I did. And got to the top of the climb, and they were hammering, and they hammered the climb. I think it was on that second to last time up. Came around the finish line, and again on the backside before the long straightaway, the official car came up to me, and this time it says 115. I'm like, oh crap, that would suck so bad if you put in all of this work and you're just dying out there to have them catch you and probably end up in like 14th or 15th place or something like that. So I'm like, I've got to give it all I got. And I was out of the saddle at every kind of rise or incline, on the drops, just staying arrow and just powering up those things, in a full on tuck going down that long straightaway. And I'm in a tuck going down that, and this stupid car comes out on, I mean, it's open course. I mean, so of course there's still cars on there. So he comes around me safe, fine. But then there was some lap traffic. Some guy that fell out of his caravan, and the car comes up behind this guy, and this guy's only going like 20 miles an hour, and I'm coming up on him like going 30. And if I try and pass that car on the outside, go over double yellow lines, hey, you're disqualified. You're done, buddy. And you've got the official car right behind you, so there's nothing. And you can't go on the inside because there's the cyclist. And so I literally, I'm grabbing brakes with wind in my face. I'm like, you've got to be joking me. He just told me that it's a minute 15. And I'm like screaming at the top of my lungs, I'm like, go, pass him, go, like throwing my arms at him, like signaling, go. The guy throws his hands up in the car, and I'm just like, go. And like he went around the cyclist and yelled at the cyclist, good job on your left. And so that guy gets free and clear, and he gets up to the stop sign, makes a right-hand turn. But it was probably about 50 yards before that, this big black dually-ish looking truck, like this total like country truck, comes around me again right before the stop sign, takes the whole lane, and comes to a full and complete stop at that stop sign. And we've got flaggers out there, so they're open intersections. You don't have to stop. You don't have to obey the law. And I end up like going, you've got to be joking me. Again, like within like 10 seconds, I'm dealing with another car. So I'm on the brakes, and I snuck around on the inside of him, almost hitting the dirt, and then passed him on the inside. And he's probably wondering, what the hell is this guy doing out here? Why is he riding like a maniac on his bicycle? And then I got out of the saddle and sprinted as hard as I could, took the whole lane. I'm like, you're not coming around me unless you're going in the other lane. Plus I was doing the speed limit too, so I don't know if he's going to take me. And all I can think is the ref telling me, or the official telling me, he's like, you got a minute 15. I'm thinking in the back of my head, they're probably all in like this massive, like streamlined pace line, flying down this flat section, going 50 miles an hour. And here's a little me just trying to make this thing stick. So I make the last right-hand turn, and it's like these little stair steps, these little rises that come up. And I was just out of that saddle. I could feel my legs kind of getting tight. I'm like, oh, please don't cramp on me. Let's not have a repeat of last week. And I'm passing people. And it was funny. There was a lady out there from, gosh, I don't even know. She's probably a master's lady, but she's wearing a Team AF kit. And I remember seeing her on the first lap, and I came around her, and I'm like, on your left. And I'm like, hey, there's a big group back there chasing me. Can you stop them? She's like, huh, what? And then it registers. She's like, oh yeah, I got you. You go get them. So and that was the first lap. And the last lap, I came around on her again. So I'd lapped her at this point in time. I'm like, I'm still out here. I need your help. Get him. Make him stop. She's laughing. She's like, go get him. So that was kind of some fun little interactions having with folks out there. So again, I'm just like burying myself, getting over these things, trying to stay small, trying to stay out of sight, trying to make this thing stick. And I get on one of the long straightaways, and I look back where I thought I would see him, because I, in my head, I've got Jaws like in the back, coming after me. I look back and they weren't there. I'm like, you still can't give up. There was one more stretch before I make the last right-hand bend that goes to that long straightaway before the finishing climb. I don't know if I'm doing a very good job of painting a picture here, but it's probably, you know the course as well as I do. It's maybe like half mile, 3/4 of a mile before you get to the base of the climb, to back where you've got open line of sight where you can see. So all I can see is the official car, and I'm trying to like get like wider, get close to the center line, just so if I can see around them to see if you can see this massive group of people. I get to the base of the climb and I look back and I'm like, they're probably coming around the corner, and I look around the car. Nothing. All I had to do was get up this little 1/3 of a mile climb and then a 200-meter sprint to the finish.
That's all you.
I could have almost gotten off my bike and walked up, and that's about how I felt like I wanted to do, but of course not. I mean, there's some stragglers going up and down the hill, and I'm just giddy inside. I'm like, I got this thing. I think I got this thing. My bike don't break, legs don't cramp. No more cars taking me out, and I'm trying to encourage other people that were like they'd fallen out of their caravan. Crested the top and looked back again, didn't see anybody coming up the hill, and just kind of put my nose down and wanted to finish a little bit strong, and came across the finish line. And I think I got him by, I think it was like 1:30 or a minute 45 or something like that. So did the whole race pretty much solo. Off the front.
36 mile off the front.
Yeah.
Congrats, Jake. That is fantastic.
Hour and 50 minutes. My suffer score was like 308 or something like that. So I finally got my first historic. I think that's a relatively new term for them, but I think I averaged
suffer score
325 watts for an hour and 50 minutes, and I was pretty done. I slept well last night, boys.
Sure.
So anyway, that was my weekend, and for the team, we had Michael Myers. He came around. He got the win for the 50s.
He won the 50s.
So we took 2 podiums. Chris Hanel finished in 4th, just off the podium. I think he said he got pinched right at the end. It would have been sweet to have him or Sean or one of the other guys up there. But it would... sorry about that. It would have been fun, but we had guys top 10 on both sides, and we finished really strong. I think Chris Wehrman got 2nd in the Clydesdales. We had Deb Krichko. She took down the women's masters, and a few others. I was kind of bummed that Kim Catherine couldn't make it out there. She was dealing with some food poisoning the day before, which was kind of a bummer. She sent me a text that morning saying that she just couldn't do it. She was gutted.
So was the rest of the team kind of playing interference?
Yeah, that's what that was my question too.
Yeah.
Like that 2nd and 3rd lap, do you feel like they were? Did you ask them? Were they working with you?
They were trying to bridge up. They wanted to bridge up.
Yeah.
That was not the plan for me to go off solo. That was not I didn't want to suffer like that all day long. Granted, it was fun in hindsight. I mean, it was awesome. But while you're in that moment, you're like, please let some orange jerseys come up and help me.
Yeah.
And they were trying to bridge up, and it would have been fantastic to have some other people up there to work with. So I think them trying to come up, and none of us thinking that was going to stick, was pushing the pace a little bit. And I think at one point in time, I think Mike was saying that to Chris that, hey, we need to start playing, defense here and protecting it and not pushing the envelope to bring the field back up to him. So they were playing protagonists just because people kept jumping on their wheels because they're all marked as well.
Yeah.
And then at one point in time, I think that they started to kind of let up a little bit and let people start to chase down, and they would answer that and reel them back in and slow the pace back down. So they definitely did help.
I would imagine that the other teams weren't as organized or had pre-planned much, and so didn't know quite what to do in order to try to bring you back.
Correct.
Yeah, but you got to figure they know, like, hey, there's a guy out front. We got to work together. Like, the Peloton organizes.
Yeah.
I mean, to some degree, you're like, hey, they know too. Like, this guy's got a minute. This guy's got a minute and a half. Like, we got to start thinking about reeling this back in.
Yeah.
They know something. I mean, especially like you start talking to people that aren't even on your team, right? Like, hey, let's start taking turns here. Let's start working.
Yeah.
I don't know. But then if you have all the dial guys up front, then they can slow things down. So it's
right.
There were some guys that I know that I've raced with quite a few times, and they said they didn't realize that it was me who was off the front until they were probably 3 or 4 laps in. They're like, oh crap.
He's not a fun guy to chase.
There's a sea of orange.
Yeah.
They misplace Jake.
Yeah, they weren't taking good inventory, I guess.
Nice.
So
Okay. Yeah. It's like the minnow effect. If you're
That's
in the
right.
water, there's a big enough crowd.
That's right.
So that was, I guess, a little bit of safety in numbers. I got lost in the mix, and oh, wait a second, he's gone.
Well,
So,
congrats, Jake. That's fantastic.
That's awesome.
That's the first time I've had a solo
Yeah,
victory. So
that's
I've done breakaways before, but never on a solo effort, and that hurt. But it was fun to get through that and look back and say, I can't believe I accomplished that.
Yeah.
It's just
Yeah.
you bury yourself and you learn how to suppress all that pain.
Yeah.
So no cramping issues this time. What do you think contributed to that?
Oh, for starters, I had 2 water bottles the whole race, and then I tried a new product from Scratch Labs. It's like their emergency hydration, emergency recovery, and it's like a pre-race drink that you can take. It's just got a much higher sodium content to it. And I took that down, and that seemed to help because we had a beautiful day yesterday. You couldn't have dialed up a nicer day for a race, and the temperatures were warmer than what we're used to, and it was actually even warmer than what the forecasted temperatures were. I think guys were saying at the start line that we're at 70 degrees for temps on their Garmin. So we were expecting temps in the 60, 61, 62 range. So you had sun out, warmer temperatures, and I was sweating my butt off.
Yeah.
And no cramping issues.
Yeah.
I did have one feeling of like a little bit of tightness, and I just kind of spun it out, just a little stretch, the little things that we do when we're on the bike, and that shook them out, and I was good to go. So.
Excellent. Good deal.
So it was an interesting day. It was a fun day. It was a hard day, and good stuff. So
Good stuff from the team. That's great.
yeah. All right. So let's get into our first topic. It's just going to be kind of an open, general topic about nutrition. And I just wanted to kind of get some insight from you boys and some things maybe that you're working on right now, some things that you've tried before, crashed and failed, some things that work well, your go-tos, and all that fun stuff that relates back to nutrition. So just real quick, why don't you guys tell me a little bit about like your race day preparation, like what it is that you're eating on a race day, pre-ride stuff. What is it that you do, Matt?
Sure. Yeah.
What gets you going?
Yeah. What gets you going? No. So I'm like total caffeine addict. So I'll wake up and I will, I'll try to take in like a decent amount of like coffee, just like try to keep things that are, I know that my body is used to. And then I do, depending on the race, if it's like a super long race, like an Ironman race, my nutrition, like my morning nutrition is a little bit like I'll take in more calories, just because my stomach doesn't get too upset when I'm swimming on a full stomach, or even if I'm biking on a fairly full stomach, I'm okay. So it depends on the race. If it's a running event, like if I'm running a marathon, I eat like super bland, like bagels, like super simple food, and like, not a whole bunch of stuff, water and stuff like that. Water, bagels, super simple. But if it's an Ironman or something like that, then I'm not super worried about that kind of full gut feeling, just because I'm thinking to myself, I need the calories. Yeah. So, and then as I, if I'm swimming, you're not taking in nutrition. Hopefully, you're not taking in too much salt water.
Sushi.
Yeah, we did talk about pre-race meals, didn't we? But yeah, so on the bike, it depends on the distance of the race. This past weekend, it's like a 15-mile bike ride, so super short. I put in some sort of like Hammer Nutrition. So Hammer's this company, and they do a whole bunch of different types of nutrition stuff, and they do supplements and stuff too. And I think I just had some of their like free stuff floating around in my closet, just like.
I'm a Hammer fan.
You have? Okay, so yeah. I mean, I think they have some good stuff. Like they have one, like those little tablets, I think that's like, I don't know, like an anti-cramping kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So they have some great products, and I took in whatever their sports nutrition drink was. So it was good. I mean, I just put that on my bike, and it's just because I had it in my closet. It's not something that I'm like, super big proponent of. I'm not, I've been using Perpetuum, which is, I think one of their products.
It is.
And that's again, that's, to me, it seems like a more of like a thick calorie drink, right? I didn't use that for this particular ride because it was so short. But for all my Ironman stuff, I was using kind of this Perpetuum stuff. So I have a lot of that stuff in the closet, and I'll use that.
Anything over 2 hours, I use Perpetuum.
Perpetuum, yeah. So it's kind of, I basically got some for free, and I used it during all my training. And then I was like, well, I'm going to use this for Ironman. So then I was like out of their stuff. So then I went and bought a whole bunch more of it because I was like, I need this for this Ironman race. Yeah. And that for all the companies that are listening is a way to get people hooked.
It's that first
Give out the
free sample of crack there for you.
Yeah, it's like, hey, these people need to use this on all their training rides, and they're not going to change. This is another thing that we've talked about. Don't change things for your big, a race.
Absolutely.
Right? Like, so yeah, you're hooked on that, and then it's like, oh, well, got all this Perpetuum in the closet, I'm going to keep using it. But yeah, so I used that on the bike, and again, for me, like the whole race was an hour and 20 minutes. It's just not a lot of time you don't need a lot of calories for that particular race. But again, so depending on the race, that's gonna determine my nutrition for sure. And I really want to be the guy that can do like kind of like liquid only nutrition, right? Like whether that's Perpetuum or Perpetuum and gels and things like that. But for Ironman distance, I can't do it, and I want to, but I'm not there yet. So I actually will make peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, and I'll cut the crust off and I'll smush them down so they're almost like little shot blocks or something like that. Yeah. They're super compact. But I know, like for me, I know a lot of what the pros do and stuff like that, and they all do like basic liquid nutrition stuff where they'll do, caloric drinks and gels. And so I'm hoping to get there someday. It's just, I'm not there yet. So
what is it that keeps you from going liquid? Is it just that not having that feeling of something in your stomach, to like mechanically speaking?
Yeah, when you're out there, it's like hour 6 or something like that. You just feel like you want calories that are like a filling, item. And so it's like if I'm just doing gels and stuff like that, my stomach tends to feel like it's just over too much sugar. Like it feels like it's just kind of gut bust.
What I found was that what I could eat depended on where my heart rate was.
Right.
So I figured out at 140 beats per minute, if my heart rate was below 140 beats per minute, I could tolerate solid food.
Right.
If it was above 140 beats a minute, I could not tolerate solid food.
Yep.
So
Yeah,
if
I would agree with that.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
So that's why I usually went full liquid when I was doing Ironman.
Right.
Or if I'm doing a longer race, I just do full liquid
So
too.
probably for Ironman racing, my heart rate's dropping down a good bit on the bike, and I think that's probably because my legs aren't strong enough. When I get on the run, it's different.
Yes.
Right? You have that running background.
Yeah.
It's like my heart rate spikes up, and I know I can hold that for a longer period of time. But yeah, then on the run, I do liquid stuff.
Yeah.
I don't even think about solid foods, right? It's like gels and water, maybe Coke at the end of the race.
Right.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, that's one part of the puzzle that I would love to kind of tweak, is to get to the point where I can do some of the liquids and the gels and still feel like I'm not going to explode.
It is the fourth discipline in triathlon.
That's what they say.
Is nutrition.
Yeah. My theory is that laundry is the fourth discipline. If you're swimming and biking and running all the time, you need to be washing
laundry.
clothes.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, so that's my fourth discipline.
Just keep those Tide Pods out of your nutrition. Right?
Yeah. Get my fourth disciplines mixed. That's dangerous.
How about you, Lance?
Generally, before a big ride or race, I usually eat 400 or 500 or 600 calories or something, and nothing too extravagant. And it's usually something like oatmeal and a banana and maybe a Cliff Bar or something like that. It's generally what I've kind of kept it to. But lately, all the racing I'm doing is, between 45 minutes and 2.5 hours max. And so I'm just taking liquid nutrition. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if I've kind of train my body to do this, but lately I've needed less and less liquid even on the bike. So, and I haven't had cramping issues or whatnot, but for some reason, maybe it's because I live in the Pacific Northwest and it is generally not too hot enough that I'm sweating too much, but I tend to sweat like a monkey. So
yeah. Do you find that you get enough vitamin D in your diet?
Probably not.
Yeah, that was the problem that I was having with cramping last year. Is I was extremely vitamin D deficient after going for a physical and doing a little bit more research and when you're vitamin D deficient and how that has an effect on your electrolyte stores and the way that your body metabolizes stuff. I was getting cramping issues from that. So I mean, my body's just already naturally predisposed, I guess, to getting cramping under certain stimuli. Yeah, that was one of them, and if you're not hydrating and you're vitamin D deficient and your electrolytes are all out of whack, I was getting some cramping issues due to that. Once I got that dialed in, that part kind of went away. So
So I generally use the Hammer products as well for nutrition. I use Perpetuum for longer rides, but I use the blocks. They make Perpetuum tabs.
Oh yeah. They might have discontinued those because I think I got some that were like, we're discontinuing these, and I was like, I'll take a couple of those if they're discounted.
I have a couple of vats of them.
Yeah.
Nice.
So because they're easy to carry on the bike, and I can have 2 bottles of water or a bottle of electrolytes and a bottle of water, and then some Perpetuum tabs, and that tends to sustain me pretty easily through longer rides and whatnot.
Good. Yeah, I don't do a lot of racing that is, over 3 hours.
Yeah.
I mean, I've done some endurance stuff like the Seattle to Portland. And I think the old running joke is that Jake runs on 50 miles per burrito. I would make these little bean burrito packs that would be perfect little squares that I would, throw some stuff in there depending upon where I'm at in the race.
So I did that ride with you, and I literally did the same thing. I had, I think, 2 or 3 burritos.
Yeah,
And they fit right in that back bike.
It was perfect.
Bike.
Yeah, and I get these tortillas from Costco. They're made with like 4 ingredients or something like that. They're the raw ones.
And then you cook them. That's what we
Yeah,
use.
you put your stuff in there and you fold it up into a perfect little square. You throw it on the fry pan or something like that, and brown each side of it, and then you put it in whatever wrapper you want to use. It worked perfectly. You just toss in one of those things every couple hours or so, and then you're obviously chasing with your fluids, and I would take like gels or sometimes a little block or something like that. What I'm really keen on right now. Sorry to keep dropping the Scratch Labs. I really do like their products, but they've got their little chews. I don't know if you guys have tried those.
Yeah,
and I tell this to people too because I bring it up and my mouth instantly starts watering. So they're good, that good. So those have been working well for me lately too. But for me, it's more just making sure that I've got the right stuff in my bottle and that I've prepared going into it, appropriately. Usually, if it's a really long, hard training ride or it's a big race. My body just always wakes up super early, so I'll go get up and the first thing I'll do is eat to make sure that I'm topping everything off. And I'll always eat right before the race as well. Well, not right before, but like about an hour out, tossing something just to get rid of any kind of mechanical hunger, so that I'm not out there on the race feeling like I'm going to bonk. I've got calories to draw off of, and making sure that the hydration supplements and stuff that are in the bottle are supporting what I'm doing, and that seems to work pretty well for me. So.
I've tried the Scratch Lab stuff, and I think it's excellent.
It's good stuff too.
I feel like it doesn't seem as sugary to me, so I feel like that's a really nice option.
Yeah, it's got a nice clean taste too.
Yeah.
It's just it tastes good. So
I definitely go.
Like that. What would you guys say your biggest fail is, either out on a bike or out on a run or beforehand? And we won't bring up sushi.
Biggest fail. Would this be like embarrassing stuff or just like nutrition fail?
Yeah, just nutrition fail that just led to something that just went completely sideways.
So I've tried, and this is one of those things where it's like, I've gotten out, and when I have Ironman training in mind, it's like I'll hit these certain days where like, okay, this is a hilly 100-miler ride or whatever it is, and it's like you pack nutrition or whatever, and then you're just like, whoops, I forgot to bring blah blah blah, like my main, whatever. In this case, it was like I forgot to bring my pack of PBJs. They're still at home in the refrigerator, whatever it is, right? Because you pack that the night before.
Yeah.
But then you get out there, and I was like, okay, so this is one of those things where I was like, okay, well, then I do have a fair amount of gels on here. Let's go straight liquid and see how it goes. I just can't do it. It's just and who knows? It could be lack of fitness too, right? Because you get out there and you just struggle the last 20 miles or so, or whatever, and you're like, I don't have enough calories. I'm hungry, so. Yeah. I've had to like stop at the coffee shop, get food in, and just be like, well, this ride's an extra hour longer than it should be.
How about you, Lance?
The biggest one I remember was I got a big pizza for my family, and I probably ate half of it myself. And it was a beautiful day, and we just got done eating, and I'm like, I'm going to go for a run.
Running.
We saw the pizza again about 30 minutes later. How come I keep telling vomit stories? But yeah, I threw up all the pizza, and then I finished my run. I felt a lot better.
Yeah, there you go.
That's rough.
Yeah.
Sorted that out, huh? I think that mine, it's going to be recent, and it wasn't an intentional fail. So we went down to Palm Springs for our training camp this past January. And, went to the grocery store to stock up for the week. We were actually there for 8 days. It was a glorious, glorious week. It was like 525 miles of riding in that 8 days. And we did, I think it was 28 hours of on the bike and just a mountain of climbing. Wow. So you got to be, make sure that you got all the food, nutrition that you need for on the bike and all that stuff. So there's a particular steel cut oatmeal that I love. And I eat that almost religiously in the mornings, especially before rides and races and whatnot. And I went to the grocery store and I grabbed the one that I normally get. It's this Quaker 3-minute steel cut oats thing, and I thought that's what I grabbed, and I threw it in the shopping cart, and got everything else, went home back to the house that we had rented, put my stuff away, got up the next morning, made my steel cut oats, put it in the microwave because it's supposed to cook up in 3 minutes, and then I tossed blueberries and some nuts in there and a little bit of cashew milk and mix that up. It's a tasty breakfast. Go and sit down outside 'cause it's a nice morning out there in the Coachella Valley. Started eating my oatmeal. I'm like, it's kind of hard and chewy a little bit, but we got to get going because we're getting on the bike. So I'm eating that up, and I don't know, about 3 hours later on a 80-mile ride, all of a sudden my stomach starts going, I'm like, uh-oh. And there's this thing, I guess, that if you don't fully cook oats, that your stomach will start to produce gases, and all of a sudden you're done. So you're jet propelled for the rest of the ride, and it was like, all right, I'll just ride at the back, guys. Sorry about that. So get back, and I didn't even think a thing about it. The next morning, went and made my oats again.
Oh, no.
I didn't make a correlation. I'm like, well, maybe it was the food that we had the night before. We went to this like Mexican food restaurant, and I had like, I don't know, whatever it was I had. Just, it's not atypical for my body to not have problems with that, so no big deal. Go through the same thing, and again, about 2-3 hours into the ride, stomach starts turning. I'm like, what the heck? Are you kidding me? And it was just terrible. I'm like, and then I started thinking about what was atypical about the thing. I'm like, well, oats kind of stuff sounded kind of bad. Yeah. Went back and looked at it when we got home. It was a regular steel cut oats, which actually takes 30 minutes to cook on the stove, not 3 minutes in the microwave. So they were grossly undercooked. So I was malnourishing myself, and they like ferment in your stomach, and they start to create all these gases. You're burping and blowing stuff out, and it was just terrible. So I ended up taking that stuff and cooking it all on the stovetop for the rest of the trip. But that was kind of the running joke, is keep Jake away from the oatmeal. That was probably my biggest fail. But we've all had other moments, and I know that you guys gave me my grief for my pre-race ritual. Actually, did not have sushi before Barton Park this past weekend. However, I did have cooked fish though. So
okay, all right.
So
cooked fish.
Maybe it's a step in the right direction, right? Yeah. Cooked fish, yes. But while you guys are on the bike, do you guys have like an absolute favorite thing, like just that one thing? Just for the folks that listen out there, just maybe for trying something new.
Well, I mean, if I'm absolutely having a miserable ride, if I stop and have a coffee, I'm back in the mix. Yeah. Like it's actually pretty amazing. I think I had the Seattle to Portland ride is like 200. It was a little over 200 miles, and I stopped at 175, and I was cooked. I was trashed. I had a coffee, and I like caught back up to the group that I was riding with. Yep. And then beat them all at the finish.
Nice.
It was ridiculous.
And that includes your time to stop. They didn't stop either, right?
No, they didn't stop. Yeah. It was just like
rocket fuel.
I mean, it was insane. And I was like, and I felt good. Like I closed hard. It was crazy after 200 miles.
The coffee shop stop.
So the coffee shop stop is,
Good. How about you, Lance?
I love Nun hydration tabs.
Oh yeah.
That you put in your water bottles. I love those.
Story about those.
The ones that are caffeinated. I like the lemon lime Nun hydration tabs, and you're supposed to put one in your bottle. I put 4.
Whoa!
So it's like
this
sweet gooey nectar, and it's carbonated.
Yeah.
So I just that's making my mouth water. So I didn't about that.
The first time I had one of those, I'd never had them before, and I was doing it was like the MS 150 down in Southern California, and it's a 100-mile leg, and we're at one of the rest stops, and the guys, here, have an electrolyte tab or something like that. I don't know, whatever. I just threw it in my jersey pocket, and we're riding down, and I'm like, I wonder what that thing was. I'm on the bike with some buddies, and I took it out. And I didn't read it because I'm riding the bike, so I tear it open. Instead of throwing it in my water bottle, I'm like, just put this on your tongue, or you eat it, or what? And I threw it in my mouth, and I got like foaming, like Mad Dog stuff coming out.
It's like Pop Rocks.
Yeah, it was kind of doing the whole Pop Rocky thing.
Oh, Jake has rabies. Stay away.
But you know what? It wasn't that bad.
Yeah.
And I honest to God, I think that it actually may have, had a positive effect. I was like chasing water with it and whatnot because it was kind of a little crazy in the mouth, but. No, that was my first interaction with those. I don't think you're supposed to do it that way, though. I think, just to go back, my favorite thing right now, and again, because it's making my mouth water, is those scratch chews. I think that those things are fantastic.
I haven't tried those. You're going to have to hook me up with one.
I'll give you back today when we're done. So
yeah, or I'll just hit you up. You'll have them on the bike. I'll just borrow.
I share them with everybody.
I'll reach in the back of your jersey when you're not looking. Just grab one.
Just make sure you leave a couple for me. So. Okay, off the bike, just in general life, what is your biggest vice? What is your like Achilles heel? Like the one thing that you're like, why am I doing this? Why am I eating? Why am I shoving this donut in my face? Yet you still do it because that's your big vice. What's your big thing, Lance?
Well, I'm Mormon, so I don't have too many vices. But I am in a deep, committed relationship with Coke Zero.
Oh.
It's a level of commitment.
So I really try to be careful with soda. No, that's not true. I love Coke Zero. I drink too much of it. Yeah. So that's my vice.
Yeah. I mean, so Lance mentioned pizza earlier. Like I'm just like him. Like I can sit down and do a whole pizza.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't matter if you feel sick afterwards. Like it's so good.
Just don't go run. Right afterwards.
I know better than to do that.
Where's your favorite pizza from?
We had Costco pizza yesterday, and there's the cheese is like super thick. Like it's not even pizza. You're basically just eating a block of warm cheese, and it's fantastic. But I don't know. My wife makes this pizza just basically all homemade pizza, and it's really good. So that's probably my favorite pizza. And then my other, I have lots of vices. Definitely like the IPA beers in the Pacific Northwest are just fantastic. So that's why I'm overweight.
Yeah.
I know that if I stop drinking beer, that the weight will drop, but it's so hard because the beer's so good. And honestly, it's not about like the alcohol. Like if it was non-alcoholic beer, I would be more excited about it. Like I just love the taste of like cold beer. It's like so good. So anyway, so it's trouble.
160, about 160 pounds. Is that what you are these days? That's overweight?
No, yeah, I'm 165,
no.
and
someone call the
unfortunately
cops.
I know. Well, and it's just, I know that, but like just in November I was 150 or under, right under 150. So that's a lot of weight in a short amount of time.
Gotcha.
So, it's not fat suit, but it's pretty damn close.
Well, I've been there.
Yeah. Well, you're looking pretty svelte there, Mr. Lance. You've lost some weight. Since I saw you, like you've been on your sabbatical traveling the world, and you came back and you were telling me that you put on some weight, but you've probably lost how many pounds? You've taken off quite a bit.
I've lost 30 pounds.
Holy
in the last
That's awesome.
while.
Wow.
Yeah.
We'll have to get to that in just a minute because I'd like to hear a little bit more about what you're doing. But for vices, I never eat them. Michael Myers, I'm going to go over there and wring his neck. He's a super nice guy. He's just one of the nicest guys, the most generous guys you'll meet. So he gets word that it's my daughter's birthday on Saturday, and he calls me up first thing in the morning. He's like, "Hey, I'm over at Dot Donuts," and that's a local donut shop that's just like to die for. And I never eat them for good reason because they taste so freaking good.
Yes.
So he comes. I'm like, "Oh, thank you so much for the offer," but we were literally walking out the door when he called to take the kids to the soccer game. He's like, "Well, where's the game at?"
Oh no!
So we're down at the soccer fields, and here comes walking up Michael with this big giant box of donuts, and I'm like, "You SOB." So I'm like, well, I'm thinking to myself, like, I hope there's just 3 in there, one for each kid. And he opens it up, and there's like the full assortment. And then there's this one that I'm not kidding. It's as big as my head for my daughter. And I've got a picture of it, and it's literally as big as her head.
There's only 3 in here for your kids, but there's 20 in here. And the rest of them are for you, right? The 3 people.
So I ended up having a donut on Saturday. I may have another half a donut later on in the day, but I had to top off those glycogen.
That's
stores,
right.
Yeah. So, but I wouldn't say that that's my biggest vice, but those things are so flipping good. But I think for me, it's probably like an ice cream, like a good ice cream, like a good Ben and Jerry's. Or we've got a local place here called Flash Freeze where they do the nitrogen made ice cream right in front of you, and you get to put your own ingredients in there. Oh my gosh, that's so good. I never get one, and I let all 3 of my kids get, and they just have to pay their dad tax.
Yes.
So teaching them early about taxes, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's probably my biggest thing. And like you, Matt, I enjoy a good IPA. It's always tasty. We'll drink yours, Lance. So
Please, yes.
We'll send you out there to win all those preem laps, and you can get your free beer, and you can share with us.
I have won a few cases of beer at races, and I have given them all away.
He's the best teammate, let me tell you.
Lance, I'm your best friend, right?
That's right. It's all you, man.
Okay. All right.
All right. So let's put that one to rest. I got to stop talking about donuts because I think there still might be 1 or 2 out in the kitchen. So, most embarrassing race moments or group rides. Do you guys have anything that you can tell us about that? Anything that just really got you good?
I've got a decent one. It was one of my first road races that I ever did. Actually, it was a couple years ago. It's called the Gorge Roubaix.
Yep.
Jake was actually in the very same race with me, and it was one of the first times we had actually met.
Yeah,
it might have been the first time we met.
No, the first time we met was at Jack Frost. I'm lined up. I'm like
too
deep.
Yes.
Like what? There's like one guy ahead of me, and I was like maybe 45 seconds out, and he was, Jake? Is that you, Jake? I'm like, who is this guy calling my name? And like this guy comes running up. He's like, yeah, I'm Lance Epler. Nice to meet you. So that was the first time I met you. And
it was all Strava stalking.
Yeah, it was good stuff. But anyway, get back.
So this is one of the first races, and the Gorge Roubaix is a beautiful. It was like a 50-mile course or something like that. Through the hills in the Columbia River Gorge, which is beautiful. There's a couple of pretty decent climbs in it. And I'd been training pretty hard, and so feeling really good about myself. I'd been killing it on Strava segments. So I thought, hey,
no one can hang with
I can do this bike racing things. I've look at all these KOMs I've got on these
collecting them.
20-second Strava segments, right?
50, same thing as the 50-mile ride.
That's right. It's the same thing as a 50-mile ride. So I figure, okay, this is all good. I'm going to go do this race. I line up with the race. Jake is there. We talk a little bit. We kind of strategized a little bit that I'll try to be there to help him because I knew he was a stronger rider than me back then. And so I'll, do what I can. So gun goes off, neutral roll out for a bit. And then there was 5 or 6 or 7 miles of flat before we hit the first climb. And no problem in the flats. I'm with the group. I'm with the peloton. We're all together.
And that was a big group too.
It was maybe 100 people.
Yeah, it was a big race.
Yeah. So we get to the bottom of the first climb, and I'm like, okay, just try to stay around Jake and with Jake and nearby. And I'm not kidding. In 200 yards, I got dropped.
Oh yeah.
So we're 7 miles into this 50-mile race. And I am dropped. And I thought, again, I said the same thing last week. What am I doing out here? Yeah. This is ridiculous. So I get to the top of the climb. I soloed for, the next 40 miles. I'm really good at downhill because I'm a big guy. And I'm a little fearless, which is not good. But but we get to Anyway, it ended up being a decent race for me where I worked with 7 guys to the top of the last downhill. I totally dropped them on the downhill. And the final 7 miles, I just head down soloed while they tried to catch me, but I held them off for like 52nd place. It was like a sweet victory. But yeah, that was embarrassing that I thought I was all that, and I got dropped on the first 200 meters of the first climb.
Well, you've made up for it quite a few times, if I don't mind saying so myself.
I just realized I'm not good at climbing, so I don't do races with big climbing in it.
Well, if you keep the trajectory with this weight loss stuff, man, you're going to be down there with Matt pretty soon with those watts and those legs, man. Lance has got some tree trunks for legs that can just pound out the watts. You're going to be killing it with those watts per kilo.
I'm working at it.
Yeah, good stuff. How about you, Matt?
So, yeah, as far as, embarrassing races and things like that, I have lots of good, things to definitely draw from, but I've been embarrassed so many times. But one thing that I would probably say is less funny, but if we have younger listeners, this is like a kind of a maturity thing. I know that when I was racing in college, like what I found was if you go and you have a bad race, it's the thing that I'm embarrassed about most is not necessarily like going and having a bad time, having that time being on the internet to live forever. Like that's fine, whatever. No one cares. People have bad races, but how you act afterwards, I feel like that is the thing that you can control that really like just will drive you crazy. And you will remember it forever. You will remember how you acted, how you treated people. And like, if you sulk or if you just like throw a temper tantrum or however it is that you act, like that to me is the most embarrassing thing. And so I've had there's one race in particular that just stands out that like I'll never forget. Like I just won't be able to get that back. Like I had a bad race. I went and just didn't talk to any of my teammates. like went and sat by myself. Just I'm embarrassed to talk about it with you guys. I'm embarrassed to publish it, but like to me, like now I coach high school kids, and I just like if that's one little thing, like hey, and this happens quite frequently. Is like you'll have kids that are great runners and they'll have a bad race or whatever it is, and they don't handle it well. And it took me a long time. That happened to me in college, not just high school, but in college too. Like just didn't really, do a good job post race. Like, like, okay, here, that was a bad race and this is the things I can work on. There's just different ways to handle it. But I think by the time that I finished collegiate running, like I had it, like,
have some grace.
I had that ability to be like, okay, did I have the greatest race? No. Did the team do well? Not great. No, we didn't do that well. But my family's here, my friends are here. Like I'm going to enjoy this post-race process, whatever it is. So that took some maturity. But the times that that I didn't actually do well post-race, those are my most embarrassing race performances. So
it sounds like you own it.
Yeah.
You learn from it, and you can now preach it. And it's good to have had that experience then, and still. Either A, be doing it to this day, or B, never doing that, not being able to, basically take that to the kids that you coach. I think that's a good learning lesson.
And throughout this podcast, series, we'll talk about other embarrassing race things that happen to me. They're maybe funnier, right? Like you crap your pants, or
I've done that.
Yeah, I mean, there's just there's so many times where there's so many things that are just so much more embarrassing or whatever it is, and it's like, that stuff's embarrassing and funny and whatever, but no, what's really embarrassing is how you act, and so that's my embarrassing moment. Hopefully you have something more funny.
I think for mine, it's almost every time we go riding, it embarrasses me just a little bit. Is the fact that
wait,
go ahead.
Tiny bladder Jake,
Jake, but not for nothing. It's not tiny. I could put out a freaking forest fire. It's just my body. Whenever I get into a ride. About 30 minutes in, you guys have both been there with me. I'm like, hey, sorry, man. We're 30 minutes. We got to stop real quick. Yeah. And it's, I mean, if I was peeing in a bottle, I'd fill up a 25-ounce bottle. It's just I don't know what it is.
Yeah. I've come to embrace the Jake pee breaks. I'm always like, I can drink a whole bunch of water before. It won't matter because we're going to stop. Jake and I are going to stop.
And it's, for me, I like Matt, I love my coffee. And, that's fluid in. I'm constantly drinking water. And then in the morning, if I'm juicing and doing some beet juice and, just raw vegetable juice and whatnot, it's not uncommon before I go out on a ride to already have 60, 70 ounces in me. And I'll try and get that out before I go. And I'll even try and get up earlier just so I can say, all right, well, if I get up earlier, 30 minutes earlier, and I start 30 minutes earlier, maybe I won't have to pee 30 minutes into the ride. Nope.
The truth is, I think if you're drinking the amount of water that you should be drinking, like you and I have done this before, where it's hey, let's try and drink a lot of water, blah, 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 blah. And you will just take more breaks on the bike. And, and hopefully people don't.
When you're in a race situation, thank God, I mean, my body gets into that, that fight or flight kind of thing. It's all this preparatory mode. Stuff. And, before a race, my body's get rid of all of it. And it was we got to the race yesterday, and I think I went to the bathroom 4 times in the first 30 minutes or 40 minutes that we were there before I got on the bike and start doing my warm-ups. And it was 3 times because I came back after doing my warm-ups, put the bike on the rack real quick, ran over there, went one more time. So it was 4 times in an hour that I went. But you know what? Once you get out there on the race, you didn't have to go. And your body just kind of focuses and sends all this blood flow where it needs to go. And hopefully you don't have to take a leak.
Have you ever peed on the bike?
No.
You haven't peed yourself on the bike?
I don't think I can either.
Mr. Lance?
On advice of counsel, I decline to comment.
Oh, okay. All right. Speaking of embarrassing race moments.
I have thrown away a pair of shoes for that reason, just so you know.
Well, it's sterile, isn't it?
No, but what happens...
Not after a week.
So here's what happens, right? So, just like Lance, if you're into triathlon, you're supposed to pee yourself on the bike.
Sure.
Right? For people that are listening to this and they're like, that's disgusting, you guys are gross, blah, blah, blah.
That's right.
If you're out there and you're racing hard and you don't pee on the bike, you're doing it wrong. I mean, because if you're taking 5 minutes to stop and slow down, pee, and that's if you're pretty fast. You slow down, you pee, and you get back on the bike, and that's fine. Some people are like, I'm going to take those 5 minutes, but then that's fine. But I think if you're towards the front, you should be peeing
yourself.
So anyway, and then shoes basically take the brunt of it because it rolls down your leg, and then
just soaks in your shoes. And you don't generally have socks on.
Yeah, no, and you should. So the key with that is immediately hose down the bike if you can, and then flush the shoes out with water as much as you can because it just is horrible. It's got staying power.
Yeah,
gotcha. Well,
it's not a pleasant shoe smell.
By the way, Jake, none of us care that you have to stop a half hour to ride. It does not bother any of us.
I guess it just bothers me then. So, to all my friends that I've ridden with before and made stop, I'm sorry. To all my friends that I'll ride with in the future, I'm sorry again. And I think my actual biggest knucklehead moment was when we were doing the Cherry Pie Road race a couple years ago. I was working for some teammates in that race, and I was off the front. And I just was the lead car was way out there because this guy named Adam Buckland had broke off the front from
Legend.
The legend, yeah, from the get-go. I mean, the neutral car rolled away, and he pretty much stayed with the neutral car, and we didn't have a lead car the whole time. So everybody knew this course that I didn't know, and I'm off the front, and I went straight, and everybody else went left. And I probably went for about an eighth of a mile before I looked back, and I'm like, hey, where's my team? And I can see them off in the distance and going in another farm direction road, and I'm like, oops. Yeah. And I think they were even hooting and hollering and screaming at me, and I turned around and I had a hammer back on. So that was kind of an oops moment for me. So I felt kind of embarrassed when I got back. They're like, hey, nice job, guy. Like this, I was like, nobody really knew who I was, and I didn't know anyone. They let me know about it, so it's kind of funny. So, all right. I think that we can get through the Arizona missions this weekend. It's kind of like that, like no injuries at work. I didn't hear anything from last week, so we can put it up.
I feel like we need Evan here to help us with the Arizona mission because that's kind of his game. He likes to play, and I don't know I don't pay close enough attention.
I'm going to take a win on this one and chalk it up as like 1 week without Arizona missions. Okay. So we can put that up on the board. It's been 1 week since airs. So
everything I said was probably a lie. So
oh, that's where our Arizona missions. We went back and fact checked you. Yeah. It turns out,
Kepler standard deviation, right?
Turns out you didn't do any decathlon.
I didn't do anything. That's right.
So, and we do have a topic that we're going to push forward to next week. We're going to talk a little bit about our favorite tech items on the bike and just things that we use with our training in general. So you guys can look forward to that one for the next go around. So let's jump into our final segment. One last thing. Matt, why don't you start us off? One last thing to wrap this show up.
Oh, gosh, I don't know. So for this particular segment, what kind of stuff are you hoping to?
Just anything that's on the top of your mind, anything you want to talk about from what we talked about today, or something that you're excited about. Anything. Just one last thing.
Jeez.
By Matt LeGrand.
Okay, so for us in the Northern Hemisphere, like the weather is what I'm excited about, right?
Yeah.
Like it's sunny. It was sunny this weekend. It's sunny this coming up week. It's supposed to be 82 on Wednesday for us. That's fantastic. Yeah. So hopefully the legs are going to come around with a little bit of biking. And if I'm overtraining a little bit, that's okay too.
Yeah. That sun is like, that getting that vitamin D. It's like Superman, you know what I mean? It's just like that sun hits you and you feel incredible.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm chalking yesterday up to. It was the sun.
Yeah, it's the sun. It's the way to race.
Yeah, and how about you, Lance? One last thing.
Do you want to talk about the weight loss?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Thank you for reminding me. I do. What are you doing?
I want to know.
I need to lose a few more pounds. I'm doing stuff too. I'm just curious how you're getting along so quickly. What are you doing?
Well, basically, I eat nothing, and when I'm about to pass out, I eat a cube of cheese. So I'm one good stomach flu away from my goal weight, I think.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you're just reducing calories?
No. So that's a joke. That's actually a quote from a movie, and I don't want to divulge the movie because I will lose my man card if I.
For those of you who don't know Lance, he's like renowned for his his database of like movie quotes and lines.
Lance, we're gonna have so much fun.
He has got a movie quote for everything, and if you follow Lance on Strava, you will laugh your butt off at every single ride post. You get to see some great pictures because the man's got an eye for photography.
I
but
agree.
Everything you're like, all right, what movie is that from? And why the hell is that so funny and so appropriate? So he never ceases to.
I love your titles of your Strava. Like all of his Strava stuff is just fantastic.
Lance Hepler.
It is from it's from The Devil Wears Prada.
Okay.
So I probably shouldn't have divulged that.
Yeah,
that's all right.
That's where it's from. Yeah, I have 1,000 stupid movie quotes in my head.
Good.
For whatever reason. No, I am. The weight loss is just coming from focus and determination. I guess I have just been very careful about what I'm eating and when I eat, and I am definitely calorie restricting because I'm not racing right now, and I'm not trying to build something. I'm trying to lose this fat suit that I've been hauling around for a while. So
how's it making your back feel carrying around 30 less
better,
pounds?
much better.
I got to imagine that makes you feel fantastic.
Yes, it has definitely made a difference.
And I would venture to guess that your energy levels are coming up too, because I'm seeing some bigger rides from you with some better efforts in there.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't been able to do much for the last 6 months,
Yeah.
but I'm feeling a lot better.
So just kind of watching generally what you're eating and salads, or like kind of no late night meal. What's the secret sauce?
Protein and vegetables.
Protein and vegetables.
And fruit. Period.
Yeah.
That's it.
Interesting.
So chicken, steak, white fish, broccoli, lettuce, tomatoes. That's pretty much all I've been eating. That's a difficult thing to do, to be focused on it. A lot of my college roommates tease me about my Hepler focus.
Yeah.
Which
you can do. Yeah.
Which has served me very well in a lot of situations. Yeah. And this is just one of those situations where if I really commit to a goal, I can kind of lay down.
Do you track your calories on a daily basis, like MyFitnessPal or something like that?
MyFitnessPal.
Yeah, it's a good app, and it's definitely one that I've used a lot in the past, and I'm currently using as well right now. But a lot of people that ask for advice and tips, I definitely recommend that they get on. That's a great way to create some good habits.
Yeah.
It's a good way to hold yourself accountable too, because if you eat it, you got to put it in.
You got to record it.
And if you don't, you're just cheating yourself. And a lot of times you don't want to record it. Like, again, go back to donuts. Like I didn't want to put that 300 calorie donut in there, because that really takes a big chunk out of my day.
There is no mystery to weight loss. Weight loss is a math problem.
Yeah.
You just have to do the math. You got to burn more calories than you're eating.
Yep.
So,
and there's a lot to be said too with when you're eating, in terms of how you're eliciting different like hormonal responses in your body, and really making your body be as optimal as it possibly can with the fuel that you're providing it. And if you again play that math problem right, you're going to get a good net gain.
Yeah.
Or loss in this matter. So good stuff.
Jake, one last thing.
One last thing. I had something and I got distracted.
It's the donut in the kitchen.
The donut.
So distracting. I'll take that off your hands for you.
Yeah. I like always, I'm so proud of the team that I'm racing on, and I again got more compliments from people this past race weekend. They're just so pleased with the way that our team, despite the fact that they're being put in situations where they're at a disadvantage, they just like the fact that we're going out and we're doing things the way that we are doing it with our team, and it's a lot of fun to try and change that. I'm not going to say that the local racing has never seen like organized racing. It happens, and it happens more in the higher categories when you get into like the Pro 1-2s, and there's some solidified teams out there. They're doing a lot of race tactic stuff, but in the the Masters and getting down into the 3, 4s, and 5s, it doesn't quite happen as much, and it just becomes a big arm wrestling match at the end of the race. And for us to kind of employ some tactics and kind of show people that it can be done here and it can be successful, I'm really pleased and happy with that. That's been a lot of fun.
That's great.
I'm really excited about the fact that this podcast is getting good reviews. I love getting messages from people, and hopefully he's listening at some point in time when he hears this. But Randy Frost is a local here who's a cyclist, and he reached out to me on Facebook, and I think it was he caught wind of it through Lance and listened to it, binged on all 4 episodes that we had up at one point in time. While he was out doing his mail route, and loved it. And getting that kind of stuff makes me excited, makes me want to do even more of these. So I'm really excited for what's to come, and hopefully we can give some entertaining information and some informative information, and keep people listening. And if anybody has anything that they would like us to touch on, give us a shout. You can reach me, Jake, at dialedcycling.com, or you can actually now use, and just about for everybody, Lance will have one of these later on today, Jake at dialedpodcast.com, and Matt at dialedpodcast.com, Evan at dialedpodcast.com, and we'll make one for Lance too. So it'll be Lance at dialedpodcast.com. If you have questions, comments, feedback for any of us, we would love nothing more than to hear from you.
Yeah.
And if we suck, tell us we suck. Tell us what we can fix and make better. So...
Yeah. Well, and then as we get, start to get more feedback, we'll add a segment of feedback to kind of address questions and stuff like that people have, because I think that'll be fun. So
yeah. And we are all set up now to take Skype phone calls, and we've got all of our little computer doohickeys all figured out, and all the appropriate cords and wires and plugins. So
computers.
Yes.
It's like professional.
Kind of is. It's starting to look kind of cool in here too. So it's been a lot of fun. But we're pretty much out of time here. We went a little long today. Hope you guys don't mind. Thanks again for coming back. We appreciate you listening. And for Matt, Lance, and myself, take care and bye for now.
Yep.